While she was in the shower, I'd pulled her winter coat from the closet to take it to the cleaners. In the inside pocket, I found 2 receipts from the Franklin Hotel on 4th Street. I should tell you what those receipts said, because that's what made everything click. The first one was from 3 weeks ago, a Friday night. Room 417. Checked in at 8 p.m., checked out Saturday at 11. The second receipt was from the week after. Same room. Same Friday to Saturday pattern. Both Fridays, Dana told me she was staying at her mother's house because her mom wasn't feeling well. I believed her. I even packed her an overnight bag the second time. I'm an HVAC technician. 14 years. I work with my hands, and I come home smelling like sheet metal. Dana used to say she liked that about me, that I was real. Solid. Not like the guys at her office who talked about money all day and never built anything. 6 months ago, she got promoted to office manager at a commercial real estate firm. New wardrobe. New hours. New energy. She started coming home later and later, saying she had client dinners. I didn't question it because I was proud of her. And because I was busy too. I'd been designing something on my own time. A side project, nights in the garage after the kids went to bed. Those receipts turned every late night and every client dinner into a different story. I didn't say anything to Dana that morning. She came out of the shower, kissed the kids, grabbed her coffee, and left for work. Normal Tuesday. I stood in the kitchen holding 2 hotel receipts and a dry cleaning ticket. I called in sick to work, first time in 3 years. Then I drove to the Franklin Hotel on 4th Street. Upscale place downtown. Not the kind of spot you'd visit your sick mother. I didn't go inside. I sat in the parking lot, took photos of the building and the sign, then drove home. I needed the address confirmed. I needed it real. Back at the house, I pulled up our credit card statements online. Nothing from the Franklin. She'd paid some other way. Cash, a different card, someone else's tab. That told me more than the receipts did. She'd planned it. This wasn't some accident. She was careful. I called my buddy Darren. He's a family attorney. We'd installed a system at his office 2 years back and stayed in touch. I told him what I found. He said to bring the receipts in and not to confront Dana until I had a plan. I drove to his office that afternoon. He looked at the receipts and said 2 words, document everything. The next 3 days, I did exactly that. I didn't act suspicious. I didn't change my routine. I went to work, came home, ate dinner with Dana and the kids, went to the garage, came to bed. But I was watching. Wednesday night, Dana said she had a late client meeting. I heard her car pull out at 7. I checked the GPS history on our family car tracking app, the one we'd set up 2 years ago when Lily started driving to school. Dana had forgotten it was on her car too. The app showed her route. She drove past her office, past downtown, and parked at the Franklin Hotel at 7:22. She left at 11:41. Thursday, I pulled her phone records from our shared carrier account. One number showed up over and over, calls and texts, sometimes 10 a day, going back for months. I wrote it down. Friday morning, I gave the number to Darren. He ran a basic lookup. The number belonged to a man named Cole Brannigan, 40 years old, commercial real estate broker. His firm did regular business with Dana's company. Darren also found that Cole was married with 2 children. I looked at Cole's photo online. Polo shirt, confident smile, leaning against a BMW. The kind of guy who never fixed anything in his life. I saved everything to a folder on my laptop and locked it with a password. Friday night, Dana said her mother needed help again. She packed a small bag and kissed the kids goodnight. I watched her car on the tracking app. Straight to 4th Street. The Franklin Hotel. 7:18 p.m. I didn't follow her. I didn't need to. I had the receipts, the GPS logs, the phone records, and a name. Darren had already drawn up a filing. I had copies of everything in a sealed envelope in his office. What I didn't have was a plan for the money. 2 weeks earlier, a manufacturer called Rainer Systems had offered to buy a control module I designed. $1.2 million. I hadn't told Dana. The same way she hadn't told me about Cole. Here's the thing. I'd registered an LLC for my side projects 3 years before we even got married. Darren checked. Anything earned through that LLC, especially from intellectual property I developed on my own time, was protected. It wasn't marital income. It was mine. That weekend, while Dana came home Saturday morning smelling like hotel soap, I called Rainer and accepted. The paperwork would be ready by Wednesday. Payment wired directly to the LLC account. Tuesday, I signed the sale agreement. Wednesday morning, the wire landed. $1.2 million in an account Dana didn't know existed, under a business she'd never asked about. That evening, Dana sat me down on the couch and whispered that she wanted a divorce. She had a speech prepared. She said she hadn't been happy in years, that she still cared about me, but she wasn't in love anymore, that we'd grown apart, that she wanted us to be mature about this, for the kids. She never mentioned Cole. Not a word. I let her finish. She took about 2 minutes. When she was done, she looked at me like she expected me to argue, maybe cry, maybe beg her to stay. I reached into my back pocket and pulled out the 2 receipts from the Franklin Hotel. I set them on the coffee table between us and said, "Room 417. 3 Fridays in a row. You told me you were at your mother's." She stopped breathing. Her face went white, not red, white. I could see it happen in real time. I kept going. I told her I had the GPS logs from the car tracker. I told her I had 4 months of phone records with Cole Brannigan's number. I said his name out loud and watched her flinch like I'd thrown something at her. Then I said the line I'd been carrying for 3 days. "You wanted a divorce? I filed mine this morning. And the terms aren't going to be what you practiced in the mirror." Dana opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. She asked how long I'd known. I said long enough. She tried to recover. Said Cole was just a colleague. That the hotel was for a company retreat she couldn't talk about. That the phone calls were work-related. I pulled out my phone and opened the GPS log. Read the dates out loud. Showed her the tracking map. Her car at the Franklin, 7 p.m. to midnight, 3 Fridays running. Her mother's house was 12 miles in the opposite direction. She changed tactics. She said it was a mistake. One time, that it didn't mean anything. I told her I had the phone records. For months, hundreds of calls, some at 2 in the morning. That's when the mask dropped. She stopped pretending and her voice went hard. She said I'd driven her to it, that I was never home, that I smelled like a furnace and spent every free hour in the garage instead of paying attention to her. I didn't take the bait. I pulled out the envelope Darren had prepared, my divorce filing, my terms. I set it on the coffee table next to the hotel receipts. I told her she had until Monday to read it and respond. No alimony. 50-50 custody. She keeps her car and personal savings. The house goes to market. And nothing in my personal accounts was up for discussion. She asked what personal accounts. I picked up the receipts from the table, put them back in my pocket, and walked to the garage without answering. She didn't sleep in our bedroom that night. I heard her on the phone in the guest room, crying, whispering, calling someone. I figured it was Cole, or her sister, or both. By morning she'd shifted again. She came into the kitchen while I was making the kids' breakfasts and said we should go to counseling. That every marriage has rough patches. That she'd end things with Cole. She admitted his name now. If I'd give her another chance. I handed our son his cereal bowl and told Dana the filing was on the coffee table and the deadline was Monday. She grabbed my arm, said I was being cruel, that I wasn't even giving her a chance to explain. I looked at her hand on my arm and said, "You had 4 months to explain. You spent them at the Franklin." She let go. That weekend was the hardest part. Not because of Dana, because of the kids. They knew something was wrong. Lily asked why Mom was sleeping in the guest room. I told her Mom and I were working some things out. Our son, Jake, didn't ask anything. He just sat closer to me on the couch than usual. Sunday night, Dana came to me and said she'd read the terms. She thought they were unfair. She wanted the house. I told her the house was going to market. That was the deal. She said she'd fight it. Monday morning, Dana's sister Rachel showed up at the house. Dana had called in reinforcements. Rachel sat at my kitchen table and told me I was throwing away a good thing. That every man makes his wife feel neglected sometimes, and it doesn't give him the right to blow up a family. I poured her a cup of coffee and asked if Dana had told her about Cole Brannigan, about the Franklin Hotel, about 4 months of lies. Rachel went quiet. She looked at Dana, who was standing in the doorway. Dana didn't say anything. I opened my laptop and showed Rachel the GPS logs, the phone records, the receipts. I didn't do it to humiliate Dana. I did it because Rachel was calling me the villain and she needed to see the full picture. Rachel looked at the screen for about 30 seconds. Then she stood up, told Dana she'd call her later, and walked out the front door without finishing her coffee. That afternoon, I did something I'd been thinking about all week. I found Cole Brannigan's home phone number through his real estate firm's website, and I called his wife. Her name was Heather. I told her who I was. I told her about the Franklin. I told her I had documentation if she needed it. The line was quiet for a long time. Then Heather said, "I knew something was wrong. Thank you for telling me." Things moved fast after that. Heather Brannigan filed for divorce by Wednesday. I know because Darren heard about it through another attorney at his firm. Cole didn't see it coming. He'd been so focused on hiding Dana that he forgot his own wife was paying attention. By Thursday, Cole's firm found out. 2 divorces connected to the same broker made for ugly optics. He was asked to resign. Darren told me Cole's managing partner called it a mutual decision, but everyone in the industry knew what that meant. Dana found out about Cole's situation from a coworker. She came home that evening and told me I'd ruined Cole's life. That calling his wife was cruel and unnecessary. I was in the garage boxing up the module prototypes Rayner wanted for reference. I didn't stop working. I told her Cole ruined his own life the same way she'd ruined ours. She said she was going to fight my terms, that she'd get a better lawyer. I looked at her and said, "Fight what you want. But the receipts, the GPS, the phone records, all of that goes into the court file. Your name, his name, the hotel, the dates. Public record." She stood in the garage doorway for a long moment. Then she turned around and went inside. Friday morning, Darren called. Dana had signed the terms. All of them. No modifications. The divorce took 11 weeks. Dana moved in with Rachel. We split custody, week on, week off. Lily adapted fast. Jake took longer, but he got there. The house sold in 2 weeks. Split down the middle. Darren called with one last update the week everything finalized. Cole Brannigan had moved out of state. Heather kept the house and the kids. His real estate license was under review. Darren said Cole would probably land somewhere and do the same thing again, but that wasn't my problem anymore. Dana never asked about the Rayner money. Not once. She was so focused on the hotel evidence and the custody split that she never thought to ask what I'd been building in the garage all those nights she was at the Franklin. $1.2 million, sitting in an LLC account she'd never heard of, from a design she'd called a waste of time. She looked me in the eyes that Wednesday evening and whispered, "I want a divorce," like she was the brave one. Like she hadn't spent 4 months lying every Friday. Like I was the one who'd failed. She never knew she was already too late. For the marriage, for the money, for all of it. The week after the house closed, I signed a lease on a commercial space off Route 9. 1,200 square feet. A workbench, a testing rig, and a desk. I moved in on a Saturday. Set up the workbench first, then the testing rig, then bolted the shelving to the wall. Hung my tools in the same order I'd had them in the garage at the old house. Some habits don't need changing. Dana texted that afternoon. Short, practical, Jake's dentist appointment on Tuesday. No emotion, no edge. Just co-parenting. That's what we were now. I called Kevin that evening to tell him the shop was set up. He asked if I was all right. I told him I was getting there. He said that's what brothers are for and hung up before it got sentimental. Rayner had already asked about a second design. I had sketches in a notebook I'd been carrying around for weeks. Something I'd started thinking about during those nights in the garage while Dana was telling me she was at her mother's. Turned out, the hours she thought I was wasting were the hours that built everything I have now. Around 8, I swept the floor, plugged in the soldering station, and pulled the notebook out. Opened it flat on the workbench under the overhead light. The first sketch needed work. The second one was closer. I picked up a pencil and started refining it. My shop. My name on the door.